Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Fort, and we are here for day 7 of the 12 days of Litmus. This day on the schedule is titled One of My Poems, and I think that this is very important for sharing as writers in a community. And I didn't want to limit it to just poetry, but one of the reasons I put this in here is because of the channel Madman Reads, which he does. If you like this sort of thing, he does a lot of his own poetry on his channel. I will do my best to figure out how to and remember to link his channel in the description below. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a poem, a flash fiction, and then the first page of one of my short stories. That way it's not just poetry, although I have tried with this channel to incorporate as much poetry as possible. But the poem is called Down the Dial. And if you are a patron of Strip Cover Lit, you will recognize this because the first draft, in fact, I think it's the same draft. I don't think I've revised this since writing it yet. Went on the Patreon page. I tried to share some of my writing from time to time with Patreon. So, Down the Dial. There's a blues station somewhere in the Midwest, far enough away that it only comes through with a thick dollop of static laying on top of the crackling music. I keep it as the 5th button, the 5th option on my preset, but it's honestly the station I listen to all the time. The first button is a rock station, classic rock now, that reminds me of the fast days of my childhood. Second is a sort of alternative station which used to play the music that I listened to in college, but now I don't understand the lyrics to any of the songs. But I'm hopeful. The next button is a station that plays all of the songs that I hear all day on the Muzak overhead at work. I keep it on there just for the kicks, and the fact that I can click on that button at any moment and know that I will be able to mouth all the words. Fourth is whatever the fancy preset was when the car was new, but now it's just this nauseating type of buzz. Maybe it was some station that's dead now because it never played anything good. I come to a red light and give the buttons all a once over, a quick listen, and there's nothing good but the 5th button with that hazy blues. So I set the first button to the blues station as well as the second, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and I doubt that the light will ever turn green. And now, the flash fiction, which is titled Mud Bucket. Rumor is he was born with dip in his lip and chap on his ass. Now I know the doctor who did the procedure, old Doc Ruggish. Fact is, he says he don't remember one way or the other on the dip or the chap. But he knows he didn't spank that child. Fearful he wouldn't get his hand back. Says it was the hairiest ass he's seen in all his years yet. Old Mud Bucket Jones. Meanest son of a bitch you ever wish you never met. See, thing is, everybody knows men dip. But real men don't spit. And if you ask a man if he spits or swallows, he'll say a lady never tells. So you don't ask. You just catch and see if he carries a mud bucket with him. That's how he got his name. Not because he swallowed the juice, but nobody ever saw Mud Bucket spit the chew itself. That's not what killed him, though. Nearest anybody could tell, Mud Bucket was indestructible. Once he became Mud Bucket, a few fellas tried making names for themselves in bar fights. One of them swung a stool at the back of Mud Bucket's head as he was lifting his glass of hams off the bar top. Cracked it right near his ear. Old Mud Bucket halved the beer, sat the glass down, then raised a righteous terror. Another fellow was twice as brave and thrice as dumb. Said Mud Bucket's mom was a whore. Now, Mud Bucket never knew his mom, let alone that she really was a whore. But I'll be goddamned if I didn't see that boy's soul get out the way when his face didn't care to. Now they say it's only once you heard something twice that you know how it sounds. And boy, When a man's head bounces off sawdust-covered hardwood, it takes you back to smashing jack-o'-lanterns as a kid. Another time, and this might be my favorite story, Mudbucket was chopping firewood on his property, opposite side of the street from his house. Well, he was hauling wood across the road, and I suppose Margie's granddaughter was on her way in from the city. Guess she'd never seen anybody crossing a fucking road. So she slammed on the brakes, probably wasn't paying attention, and slammed harder on the horn. Next day, the city newspaper comes out. Girl attacked by a wild man-beast, owes life to anti-lock's brakes. Goddamn, she really did too. The way Mudbucket was walloping on that foreign piece of shit, he'd have liked to send it back to the Kaiser in a mailbox, in a shoebox. She eventually got in gear and ran him right over, blabbed and cried all night. City girl. And Mudbucket? He walked that firewood to his porch to dry out. Being run over by a kraut can didn't pause him one damn minute. That ain't what killed him. This is the part where you ask, well, was it love that done him in? Shit, no. Nearest anybody could figure the only thing Mudbucket loved was gnawing on chaw. But I already told you that ain't what got him. The problem with saying got him is, it's too direct. Suggests volition. Somebody trying to kill Mudbucket could barely get in 2 licks before getting done in. See, with a man as burly as Mudbucket, you gotta figure it's only nature that could have done it. That's real. That's poetry. Still, being mean wasn't what defined Mudbucket. Old Muddy himself was the hardest goddamn worker anybody had ever seen. One of those men that all they know is movement. If the sun was out, so was Mudbucket. For 15 an hour, he'd work your property for firewood. 20, and he'd sweep your chimney so clean you'd swear to Almighty that Jesus himself would use that chute to come back from heaven. 25? Well, for $25 an hour, it didn't really matter what you needed done. So, when Miss Techner, town librarian and 4th grade teacher, needed done, she went right to Mudbucket with $25. Didn't figure it would take much longer than that. She knocked on his door, handed him the bill, and told him the chore. Just like that, Mudbucket was doing the work of nature, plowing the fields and seeding the rows, riding the ass into Rome, plucking the cherries and passing the stems. What I mean is he fucked her. Right there on his front porch. Safe to say, not even Techner expected that on account of the noises she was making. That and Mr. Techner hadn't even turned the car off. See, the way Mudbucket breathed was through his mouth, with the chaw as a sort of a filter for an intake valve. Reckon that's why he was never too damn excitable. So Mudbucket was fucking and breathing, and the nearest anyone could figure he bucked too hard just one time and popped that chaw up out of his lip and back into his throat. Mrs. Techner said she didn't even know anything was off until he keeled over dead. It wasn't in the papers, but she told me she got done a couple times before he dropped. Mudbucket always wanted to finish the job. So when we buried Mudbucket, she put $25 in the chest pocket of his flannel. Talking with the mortician, new fellow from up the road, I convinced him to put a nice thick thumb of dip in Mudbucket's bottom lip before he sewed them shut. Now, I can't tell you whether or not that mortician took the time to grain some chap onto Mudbucket's ass, but it would have been a nice touch. Third and final is the first page from a short story that I wrote called 1000. And with the first 2, I didn't really add any context because they were whole pieces. Maybe I will after I read this part, because getting an excerpt, I think that it's a little different than presenting something in its whole. 1000. You don't really know St. Joe, so you're lost. You come up here to do it again, but you can't do it while you're lost. Now you're just driving around, stupid and thinking of things like they used to be. You breathe in deep, last breath deep, and clench your jaw to try to conjure something. But it isn't there. So you roll the window down and try to at least enjoy a Sunday drive. Some streets smell like burnt hair, others like garbage. The rest smell like rot, and you don't want to breathe in through your mouth. That's your least favorite part, the rot. Lately, all you can concentrate on is your least favorite parts. This is what you get, because this is what you deserve. The sun splinters through the smokestacks, and the way the light smacks a short shadow onto the concrete from a tall meth head standing on the sidewalk is almost beautiful. And the ugly fucker reaches for you, like Christ in Caravaggio's The Calling of St. Matthew. His pallid skin pops against the dark of his smile, and it's a true type of tenebrism, a verisimilitude like Baroque couldn't communicate. And for a moment, as little and black as the junkie's teeth, you think it'll be him. You'll ask him if he needs a ride, and when he gets in, the bones of his ass pressing against his jeans squeaking against the leather seat just before his skinny finger slithered down his back, before the scab where his fingernail used to be wraps around the trigger of the gun he's hiding, you'll grab the deer femur knife under your right thigh and swing it at his neck so hard that you'll put a hole in the heated headrest of your Beamer, so hard that the meat of your fist will slap against his Adam's apple after the jagged white blade jabs through the flesh and muscle and vertebra so hard the blood doesn't spurt against the windshield and leak down, but sprays out, almost mists out, still blue, confused as to why it's not rushing towards a meth mush brain, but is instead spitting into reality of a finely manufactured German automobile and fogging against glass slightly cooler on the inside than the outside, so that condensation mixes with thick blood and oranges it out. Then it's gone. When you stand close enough to one of Caravaggio's paintings, you see heavy, gloppy brushstrokes. Sometimes you even see where he fucked up and had to scratch something out. There's no longer a Caravaggio. That's no longer a Caravaggio. It's a paint by numbers. It's crown on cardboard. It's the street painter who thinks he's Jackson fucking Pollock because he can't make anything look real. The smokestacks cough higher, and the sun cowers behind them, and you see the junkie's face is long and loose. It's relaxed, like a deer losing its insides on the side of the highway. It's not taut and fierce like a hunter, like a killer. Sport is challenge. Life is struggle. To be alive is to be suffering. Killing isn't fun anymore. You're lost. Your M6 hums along the fractured pavement and past the junkie in downtown St. Joseph, Missouri, and you swerve into every clod of dirt you see, thinking maybe you'll hit a shard of glass. The window in the corner of the windshield says you're 4,000 miles past an oil change, but these German cars, they run forever without maintenance, until they die. You stop at the light, you reach into the cup holder and grip the Heckler & Koch HK-45 by the slick metal and absent-mindedly finger the barrel, thinking of your first time. You know what, I don't think I'm going to add any context to that. Hopefully you are enjoying the 12 days of Litmus, and I will see you tomorrow for my favorite quote on writing. I would appreciate a like on this video, and if you have not already subscribed, maybe hit that subscribe button, and maybe you know, I don't know what to put in the comment. I don't know what to ask you to put in the comment section, but if you know of any other YouTube channels that share their own writing, maybe share those in the comments below.